So we'll reverse our recent trend today, and we're going to spend less time warming up. But I really recommend, especially if you're watching this uh, pre-recorded, that first you spend some time doing some of the foundation warm-ups. You really get a lot more out of it that way. We'll do just a little bit. Start with the chin back, crown rising. Soften the knees and tip forward a little bit from the hip joints. Let the back open, the spine length. Relax face and jaw, tip the tongue at the roof of the mouth. Sink the shoulders, let the shoulder blades sink into the back. Spread the palms a little. Feel like the back is enclosing the deep chest very lightly. The tailbone drop, sinking under the body, lengthening the low back, helping to guide the breath down into the abdomen. Spread the feet, lightly grip the floor. Feel the tip of the tailbone gently lifted. Feel the support coming up through the inner legs, up through the deep abdomen at the front of the spine. Connecting up through the crown, allowing us to release the weight down very easily through the whole body and down through the feet. And so we'll just rock the weight a little bit forward and back. Then feet press and claw, warm up the arches of the feet. See how they're connected up through the shins and calves. Maintaining that same posture. Side to side, that's 70% of the weight. Circle. Pause in reverse. Starting to feel a little movement in the deep abdomen as we do this. Some subtle change through the back. So by keeping the tailbone dropped under and the posterior pelvic tilt, we're not keeping this area stiff or frozen. Pause. Look up, keeping the chin back a little bit. Look down. Open the front. Spread the palms. Maybe you can feel the feet spreading a little bit. Open the back. Palms gathering, slightly cupped. The feet as well. Side bending. You may notice how that my arms rotate here, but that's not absolutely necessary. I could leave the palms just facing in towards the seam of the pants. And again, the chin's back. We feel that lift up through the crown. We're dropping the tailbone under. Well, I only see the movement in the upper spine. I can still feel some effect down in the lower body where things are stable, at least outwardly stable. Reverse. Turn head. Again, here the arms do not need to rotate necessarily. You can just focus on the feeling of the central axis, spine, ribs. Or the hands can rotate, either thumbs turning in the same direction or opposite. An opposite turn sort of helps stabilize the position of the body and give me a little leverage on getting the articulation, especially in the upper chest and back. So it helps me sort of anchor that back leg, the leg I'm turning away from. It sets up a series of counterbalances. And that name, Tai Chi, really is intended to call our attention to all these little counterbalances in the body. Counterbalances that move or pivot around a central axis. Last week we started doing an asymmetrical movement. I'm just going to start by reaching one hand up. And even turn the palm up and press. And as I do that, the first counterbalance I'm looking for is sinking the shoulder blade down into the back as I push my palm up. And focusing on that tends to resist a side bend. If I let my shoulder go up, almost automatically I'm going to see my body tilting to the side. And there's nothing wrong with that, so we want to explore something a little different. You can still feel a big opening here through the ribs, but without that visible movement to the side. It's like the action of a side bend without seeing it on the outside. Now, the next counterbalance I want to explore is thinking if the other hand is pressing down. So I'm going to start with both elbows bent. Pressing one hand down, not just as a counterbalance, but trying to feel as if the push up is actually rooted in that push down. So when I was just lifting one hand, it has a particular feeling. There's nothing, I think, very surprising about it. If you're trying to sink the shoulder, that starts to get a little more unusual. Now, if I push down with the other hand and I try to feel how that might help drive the first hand upward, that's quite a different feeling. And if I let the shoulder blade fly up, it's almost impossible to find that connection between the two arms. So sinking the shoulder blade is a big part of connecting the two arms. And it's a bit like a balance scale, right? If I was holding the scale, have the two plates, weight one of them, that's going to sink down, the other side's going to lift up. That's, of course, not what's happening here, but it does describe the feeling a little bit. What lifts one of the plates in the balance scale is actually the weight on the other side. So here I imagine that weight, try to feel the connection between the two arms. And then we also looked at a variation where instead of bringing the hands to the sides as I exchange them, I'm going to bring them up and down the center. So that upper hand right away is going to turn palm down. The lower palm is going to turn palm up. So it's like I'm catching something between my palms. The hand that's coming down is just going to continue to push down. And at a certain point, it's still going to drift to the side a little bit. And that just comes from the shape of the shoulder, or the geometry of my shoulder. So as I'm pushing down at a certain point, that hand's just going to come to the side. It's not choreography so much as just the requirement. If I keep coming down, that hand's going to move sideways. The lower hand is a little more complicated trajectory. The lower hand passes in front, and it has to turn over. It can't continue to lift up. Again, the geometry of the shoulder just does not allow it. To push up overhead, it has to turn all the way over. So again, not choreography, just the choreography part is I'm going to push overhead. But how I get there really just comes from how the joint is articulated and what's possible. So rather than thinking of steering this transition, it's more just allowing it, noticing how it comes from the function of the shoulder. And I'm still looking for that feeling that pushing down lifts the other hand. So you see the coordination between the elbows. And as I do this, I still feel a lift on this side. When the hands travel to the side, I probably felt more of it, right? More of the stretch here. When the hand travels forward, I start to feel a little bit more of the lift in front. And in Chinese medicine, these correspond to the two of the channels that come up from the leg and run up into the trunk. The front one runs all the way up into the face, called the stomach channel. And it pulls on the abdomen very clearly, right? Gently. Right? It's not a big, strong feeling, it's more subtle. But I get this sense of lift, but perhaps I can feel all the way from the top of my foot, up through the front of the leg, up through the front of the chest, moving up, like maybe even into the neck and face. The hand that's pushing down is pushing the ribs down on that side. So I start to feel the counterbalance in my trunk. Right? And the ribs on both sides, probably the easiest place to feel it. Maybe down in the abdomen as well. And when the hands first come together, I may feel like I'm starting to capture something. We can even imagine that the air is a little thick, right? Or thickening as the hands come together, as if I was squeezing in the volume of air, right? And increasing the pressure, right? If I took a loosely filled balloon and squeeze it in, I'm going to feel more and more resistance. This is not a matter of tensing my muscles in any conscious way. Initially, it's just a process of sort of visualization, or just even noticing. For the most part, I actually don't try to visualize too much I'm doing Tai Chi, and mostly just we have a very light image like that one, that increasing pressure. Then more of my attention is given to just, do I feel anything? What do I feel? I'm going to take a little wider stance. We'll warm up the stance a little bit. That's what we usually do. It's shifting. Again, remember the tail wants to drop under and noticing how that opens up, gives me a little more freedom in the hip joints. That allows me to maintain a nice rounded arch without that leg falling in. So the little toe stays down on the lighter foot. Foot's well planted. I can drop some of my weight through it, about 30% when it's light. And it maintains this rounded arch formed by the two legs. Turning. Turning coming from right below the hip bones, as always, right at that hip crease. So if my hands are on the hip bones, the turning is controlled below where my hands are resting. And then combining the weight shift and the turn. Squeeze in a little bit, and then I'm going to shift and turn. Now, in this case, the hand doesn't come and flip over. I'm no longer pushing up overhead. So the lift is smaller. The hand that's dropping feels very similar. From about the center of the chest, it's just sinking down, and as I turn, the hand kind of gets left behind. But it's in a very similar position to when I did this. It's right at the outside of that hip crease. Now I've shifted about 70% of my weight again. The other hand's lifting up, but without the turnover. Which means it's a little harder to feel this kind of asymmetry in the ribs, that rising and falling. It's still there, but it's now quite a bit subtler. But we started with a bigger movement to help us notice something that, again, is a little subtler now. Made it nice and big and strong and obvious. I'm looking for the feeling, again, that dropping one hand, and it almost feels like it's retreating, sort of leaving it behind, lifts the other hand and helps now give it some extension. So there's a forward, backward feeling as well as an up and down. Two types of counterbalance. So sinking and retreating are both yin activities. Extending away and rising are both yang activities, if we want to use the traditional parlance. My fingertips are coming up to about the height of my eyebrow. And if I'm looking diagonally to the side, I'll find that my fingers, the lesser fingers, are sort of just covering my nose. So fingertip to eyebrow, covering the nose, and the palm is mostly facing up towards the ceiling, but it is not flat. It's got a natural angle. I'm still sinking my shoulder blade down toward the middle of my back, keeping the elbow dropped. You'll see that my elbow isn't pointing straight towards the floor. Again, there's a roundness of the arm. So while the palm is turning up, it never forces it and twists the arm inward. Now, if I come back to the center, I can turn the other way. Again, looking for that feeling, that dropping, that backhand lifts and extends the front hand. About half the face, including the nose. So I'm shifting my weight 70%. I'm also turning towards what feels like my front leg. If I turn the front toes out a little bit, now I feel like I'm back in a bow stance. Hips are turning towards that front leg just comfortably. So here they were facing forward toward the camera, and now turning toward that front foot, but not quite in line with that front foot. So I have to relax and open that back hip. Let's come back to the center. I'm toeing in, so I'm back in a horse riding stance. Feet parallel, toe out. Start with that. I'm also going to add, as I start to shift the weight, first a little more squeeze down. I can think of that as choreography, or I can think of it as coming from the whole body. And the way that's going to happen, what's going to guide that feeling is my eyes. So I'm going to look down a little bit at first, just a slight angle down, and feel how that rounds my back, then hopefully brings my hands together a little bit. And then I look up and out to the distance. Weight continues to shift forward, hips are turning in that direction, and the arms separate. The lower hand drives the upper hand. So that's a lot of things to keep track of. Don't worry about them all at once. Just going to come back to the center, shift, and just by lowering the eyes a little bit, we feel like we're squeezing down subtly. It's not a muscular effort. And I look out to the distance. Now here, the gaze is more neutral. It's not far or close in. It's not up or down. Little down, toe out with that foot. Up and out as if I can see all the way to the horizon. Really open up that back leg. Keep the tailbone dropping under. Open up the hip. Extend the knee. Feel like the drive of the movement flows up through the body, from the ground, through that leg, that back leg. Front knee stays significantly bent, so I don't want to stand up straight. Now, the traditional Yang family Tai Chi form starts with something a bit subtler than this. And if there's an advantage to starting with this movement, wild horse parts its mane, as they do in the simplified form, then it's that just making it bigger hopefully makes it a little easier to feel. But it can also make it too muscular. It can make it too sort of self-consciously stretching out. So I search for a feeling that's very automatic, right? Very spontaneous, by a better word. I focus on the sinking down, releasing through that lower hand, releasing through the back leg, and feel as if the lift comes from there. And the movement of the eyes, a little down, a little closer in, a little up, a little out to the distance, that's like fine tuning. Right? Sort of wakes up the upper part of the spine. Feel the crown of the head light at the same time I'm releasing the weight down. My hips and shoulders are essentially turning as a block, as one big piece, right, from the pivot of the hip. But I can feel a subtle twist in the ribs or in the deep abdomen. What I don't want is a big waist twist, right? So outwardly, it looks like the hips and shoulders are just working as a block, but inwardly, I can feel a little more organic than that, a little more elastic. Because my belt buckle does not quite line up parallel to my front foot, but my nose does. So there has to be a little bit of twist to the spine. Right, so my line of my nose is just inside the line of my foot. Or actually, in this posture, a little bit out over the foot. If I drop this elbow, it's just about over my knee, but just slightly to the outside. This is a little bigger posture than we see some other places where the elbow might be right over the knee. Here, emphasizes just a subtle twist. Again, this bigger posture can make things a little easier to feel. So this isn't exactly a walking exercise, but it's got almost all the parts of walking without actually lifting the feet up off the ground, right? Feet are moving. I'm getting a lot of work in the legs. The whole time I was trying to keep a nice even height. There's no real up and down. If I start with our commencement, on the basic posture, sink the weight, let the body turn a little bit as we step out, turn back in, to the other side, turn in, palms to the back. Once I sit down, whatever the last repetition is, right? I can do it once, doing it 3 times is quite common. But now it's much easier usually once I bend the knees a little bit more to feel the tailbone drop under, feel that extension of the lower back. I'm going to turn out toward the camera here a little bit, turning my toes out. And I'm just going to get my hands in position as simply as possible. So I'm going to shift the weight over and let the palms start to turn toward one another. And then step up. Now this is the same step we've been doing all along. So slight turn to the front, right, the way I'm going to be walking. Let that leg swing out on an arc. Start to shift the weight. And this is that moment where my eyes are a little down and I feel like the space between the palms is compressing a little bit. Right? This subtle rounding of the back. And now I'm going to raise the eyes and look to the distance. Looking past straight to just over my knee. There's that wild horse parts its main movement. The back leg is pretty extended. Front knee stays bent, so I don't pop up. Try to drop the tailbone under. There's a little stretch in that back hip. Sit back, the front toes come up. Turn out, and remember as we turn out here, leave that back leg where it is. Don't let it get twisted up. Knee is pointing the same direction as the toes. Hip is sitting right over the heel. And here the palms start to turn toward one another again. Shift forward. So I'm being quite attentive to how much I can toe out here, opening up my hips, externally rotating the hips. I don't want to push that. I want to get right up to the level where it starts to feel like a little bit of a challenge and say that's good enough. Try to avoid feeling like my legs are getting twisted, especially my knees. All that has to come from the hip. So I'm not turning my foot out from the ankle particularly. I'm not letting my knees get twisted up, especially that back knee. It's all up here from the hip. Stretch out, palms are starting to face one another. I almost caught a very big ball. And then as I step up, gathering in again, basketball size. So upper hand is mid-chest height, lower hand maybe just a little below the navel. Step out. Sink the weight in that front leg. Eyes a little down. Squeeze the space between the hands, or let the space be squeezed. Sometimes passive language is really better than active. They don't want to be doing too much. Look to the distance. And again, it's not about the lift of the front hand. It's about letting the back hand sink down and feel heavy. And saying, can I get some lift out of that sinking down? Sit back, 70%, toeing out as far as we can, comfortably. Stretch out, step up. And look a little forward so we're ready for the next step. Avoiding any standing up here. Keeping the knees bent. Sink down. Knees up. So again, what's happening in the back arm and leg is very similar. The elbow and knee are extending a little bit and releasing the weight down through that leg, through this arm. That's where the lift comes from. Back, turning out, and forward, 70%. Keep the back foot planted at first. Through the 50-50 point or so, maybe a little further. Then step up. This foot is very light, just resting on the ball. Looking a little to the front, and I'm ready for the next step. We're doing the same walk we've been looking at, but now we're doing really a full 5G posture with it. The feet are still on the camera. Again, I'm just going to turn out, let the hand come up very simply. You see how the back hand and foot actually come in together at the same time. Step out, squeeze down a little bit just by looking down. Look up to the distance through the fingertips here. Back, forward again. You see how that back arm and leg come in together. Lifting a little to the front. Coming in together. Now I'm just going to keep my weight on that front leg, toe in, turning backward, step in, and I can keep going. I've probably given far too much information about this movement. Should have saved it for more weeks. Tends to be my big failing for teaching for many years. Turn back. So toed in. Step in with what was the back foot. So in this forward posture, chin is still back. The shoulder blades are sinking down toward the middle of the back. The back of the hips and tailbone are sinking down under the body, lengthening the low back. The weight is released through that back foot, as well as the back arm. Back hand feels heavy. Those are all much more important than what I'm doing with that front arm. But because I'm looking at that hand through it, that's where all my attention will tend to go. And that can be a big problem. That's very unbalancing. So try to focus more on the things you can't see. The back of the body, the back hand, the back leg. Let's step up here, close out the arms. If you want, you can get that commencement movement, since that's what we use as the conclusion. Bring the feet together. So, really far too much for one little lesson. We will review it next week, try to hopefully clarify things.